So this is a gym guide for a new world. Don't worry about this or this up here, like the armor weight. I just picked whatever gear had gym sockets on it. First, so don't worry about the what's on the gear either. So to start off with, you're gonna want 5% resist all, which whenever you run the onyx and the opal, instead you want to do a diamond and a malachite because they give you like 0.01% more or something like that, or maybe zero point 0.1 more thereabouts. So you combine those together just to get a little bit extra. Then you have 4 more gem sockets to play around with in the rest of your gear. So for these gem sockets, there's a few rules to follow, which is, again, if you have another malachite or opal and onyx combo, you want to run a malachite and a diamond because you'll get a little bit extra. If you have 2 gems from the same category, like 2 physical gems, like thrust and slash, for example, here, it's better just to run 2 onyxes because then you get the extra 5% strike damage for free, and you still get the 5% of the 2 gems that you had in there if they're separate, like, or different like resistances. And the same goes for if you have 2 different elemental ones. So if you have 2 different elemental ones, these are 6% each. You can swap in 2 opals. So this will give you 5%. You do lose 1%, but it's better to have like the whole list of extra defenses for elemental versus 1% in both of the categories you're putting gems in for. So for these 4 sockets, usually you want to do like 2 of them for physical and then 2 of them for elemental, for example, which this isn't a good setup, right? You'd want to switch those 2. So you have 2 elemental ones and then 2 physical ones. You could also, if you're running, say, elemental version, or you're more worried about getting more physical defense, you could run like 3 of them for physical, or maybe even all 4. Say that you wanted, 10% base because you already have 5%, and then the 2 onyxes will get you to 10. So if 10 slash, thrust, and strike, then you can get to an extra 10% there. I'll do some more example gem setups at the end of the video, or towards the end. I also want to talk about the amulet. So right now on the amulet, everybody's running either slash, thrust, or fire protection. So really, you really want one of the physical ones on here. And the reason being, right, is that this is like kind of like getting 2 free gems for whatever. So like this is 2 free moonstones, or if it was thrust, it would be 2 free of the emeralds. But if you do, say, fire here, then it's still only 10%. But if you were to just slot 2 fire gems, both of these would give you 6% damage absorption, which is 12%, which is better than the 10% on the amulet. And then you'd still be, 10% short on whatever physical thing, so you're probably going to slot like more physical defense. So it's better to have the physical defense on your amulet, and then if you want more fire defense, put more fire gems in, because you get more defense overall. Oh, also, something worth noting is that currently, and probably for the foreseeable future, the only gems worth slotting for like an individual protection, and not just these overall gems, are going to be your slash, your fire, and your thrust, because that's most of the damage right now that's coming out as fire, slash, and thrust. if you're not slotting either fire, slash, or thrust, it should just be like an overall gem that covers a lot of different things. If you are playing a bruiser build, you want to try to hit 20% slash resistance between your amulet and your gems. So it's a really good idea to have slash protection on your amulet if you're playing bruiser or just anything that's going to be in the clump. You probably want to go for the slash on the amulet. So let's go over some example builds here. This is one that I like. So with this build, you can get, not looking at the slash protection on the amulet, you'd get 12.5% slash, 7.5 strike, 7.5 thrust, and then 5 of all of the elementals except for fire, and you have 17 fire, which is really nice because all the burst damage coming out, fire staffs, BBs, even if they split their damage, they're still going to be hitting for fire. There's a lot of bows right now that aren't running split damage, but they're all running the explosive arrow, which is going to come out as fire. So it's nice to have some extra fire. The one to look at is so this is another good setup you can run if you're more worried about protecting against elemental resistance. So this will give you 10% against all of the elementals. You'll only have 5% against thrust, which, if you're not fighting bows, you're not going to have an issue with. But if you are playing kind of around the edge, if you're playing OPR, this is probably not going to work out too good for you. There's another setup you can do as well if you're running a lot of elemental aversion, and that's something like this. If you're just solely worried about reducing melee damage, you can run this. You can get a lot of resistance to strike this way, and there's quite a few people who are trying to light attack a lot with the Warhammer just because there's not a lot of people running strike resist, so this will make you a bit stronger against that. It'll also make you really strong against against the great axes. Just there's a lot of people left cooking great axes too. This is a good gem setup you can run too. It gives you a good amount all around with slash, strike, thrust. You get some extra fire with it as well. So this is a good setup to run too. And all of the gem setups I just showed, you can realistically switch either the onyxes for opals, or you can switch the moonstones and emeralds out. And you really just, whenever it comes down to these last 4 slots, you just want to think about, do you have elemental aversion on your armor, or physical aversion, or shirking fort? If you have elemental aversion, you probably don't need to go with 2 opals here. If you're running elemental aversion, you can, maybe slot some extra physical damage absorption here. Or if you're running physical aversion, maybe you're a little bit less worried about getting thrust gems in, so you can slot, say, an extra slash or fire instead of going thrust. But these last 4, you just kind of want to switch them. You want to slot either one of these 4, the all resist gems, or you want to do something with slash, fire, and thrust. And you just want to make sure you don't have 2 different of these from the same category, whether it's slash or thrust. Well, it would be slash or thrust, or slash and thrust that you'd slot together. don't do that. It's not worth slotting these other elemental gems just because there's no like consistent burst damage or consistent damage coming out from any of these. I mean, it's not like Ice Storm does enough damage that you need ice gems. Void Gauntlets are definitely not doing enough damage. You need to slot against them. Arcane is, it's nice to have Arcane because that's detonates, but that's like one attack that gets charged over like 30 or 45 seconds or something like that. So it's not worth gemming against like literally one attack that has like a long cooldown that you actually have to deal damage to get it to like cycle so you can use it again. At that point, you might as well just go with opals because it gives you that resistance against arcane damage and it gives you resistance against the damage you're actually going to be taking all the time.